I'm Simon Collinson. I'm Dean of Birmingham Business School, and it's really fantastic to welcome you to an event like this on behalf of the University of Birmingham, which is a massive regional player in its own right, but also on behalf of Birmingham Business School. I'm not chairing, I'm just saying a welcome, and it is a wonderful event in the sense that it really syncs and aligns with the kind of values and the approach that the business school and the university have in relation to both their teaching and the research that we do. So with that, as a panellist, I'll get to say 5 minutes about the theme myself, but I'm going to hand over straight to Colette Bow, who is going to chair and introduce the session. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Simon, and thanks on behalf of all of us for hosting this debate this afternoon. The format is going to be that I'm just going to quickly mention the names of my colleagues who are here on the panel. I will then say a few words about the Banking Standards Board, and then I'm going to invite each of my colleagues on the panel to speak for a few moments on topics that are relevant to our theme about the regional economy, the role of banking, what needs to be done in the sector, and indeed more widely. Then we'll have an open Q&A session, which I hope everybody will be keen to join in on. And we are aiming to wrap up the whole event at about 5:30, after which I'm delighted to tell you there will be drinks outside. So, may I just then introduce my colleagues here on the panel. Simon, you all know. On my immediate left is James Cliff, who is head of business banking at HSBC. On my immediate right is Bishop David Urquhart, the Bishop of Birmingham, and a colleague of mine on the Banking Standards Board. To his right is Paul Anderson, who is the MD of Deutsche Bank here in Birmingham. And to his right is Alison Cottrell, who is the Chief Executive of the Banking Standards Board. And as I've said, each one of the speakers will speak for a few moments before we throw it open. Now, I would just like to say a word or two by way of framing this about the Banking Standards Board. For those of you who don't have a season ticket for these debates, I would just like to mention that the Banking Standards Board is kind of an interesting body because it is not a regulator, it's not a trade association, and it's a body that has been set up by the major banks of the United Kingdom with the intention of a group of people forming themselves under the wing of the Banking Standards Board to work with the banks themselves to help them to reform their culture, their standards, their practices, their professionalism, all of those things that go to make up a good business. Now, why is this happening now? Well, why it's happening now, I believe, is partly for very obvious reasons post the financial crisis, but also in a more subtle way and a very interesting way, that I think there is a widespread recognition that although regulation has a big role to play in the proper conduct of a business, there are limits to how far regulation can really take you in the conduct of a business. And the Banking Standards Board is here to support those who lead our banks in steering their businesses towards doing the right things for their customers and indeed for the people who work for them. But most prominently of all, banks are here to serve the communities in which they are located. And that brings me finally to why we are here in Birmingham today. We have been spending, I and my colleagues have been spending the whole day here speaking to a cross-section of business leaders, local authority people, various people who have all got a big stake in the growing economy of Birmingham and the West Midlands. And the issues that we have been exploring today, which have been very important, have been how can this region of the United Kingdom, which has enormous intrinsic strengths, it's part of a vibrant economy, it has a young very rather well-educated population. It's got a lot of growth potential. How can Birmingham really start to steam ahead as one of the dynamic powerhouses, if I'm allowed to use that word here, one of the dynamic parts, the most dynamic parts of the UK economy? It's a big topic. The banks have got a big role to play in that, which is why I'm delighted that we have two prominent bankers, representatives of banks with a big stake in the local economy, on our panel this afternoon. I think that's kind of enough from me for the moment. I'm now going to turn to David Urquhart, my fellow Banking Standards board member, and ask Bishop David to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Colette. It's really good that the first regional meeting of the Banking Standards Board is in Birmingham. We wanted that to happen because of the wide interest there is in economic matters and the contribution that this region, the West Midlands, makes to the national and international economy. Also, I was delighted to be asked by Colette to join the board, and some people have found that surprising, but on the other hand, at the heart of what the Banking Standards Board is trying to do is a desire to respond to the industry and to the banks and finance sectors wish to develop itself in a way which not just counteracts the reputational damages done by the crash and the structural difficulties that there are in running a good business, but also to allow those who work in the industry and those who are the industry's customers to have trust and confidence in the operation. The people of faith or philosophy, of course, haven't recently been invited in to the portals of global capitalism. Although we have a number of scholars, even in this university, who wrestle with these issues. My own background is in the oil industry and finance and commerce. So to be invited back in to look at the figures and to listen and to debate is a great thrill and privilege. Of course, in my own tradition, it's important to say at the outset that the wealth is not bad. Wealth is good. And there are many stories in the Christian scriptures which illustrate that. For example, and this is why I'm on the board to point out this, is that the person who had so much wealth that he didn't have enough room to keep all his goods, which is recorded by the evangelist Luke in chapter 12, was never criticised for being so rich and having so much to store. What he was criticised about was what he did with his wealth. So I will tear down my barns and build greater. And that night, he died. There are more important things than just running a good business, than just getting the bottom line right. Banking, I believe, has a crucial part to play in the good of society, both at the personal level and at the commercial and structural and national level. And that's why I've joined, to see if we can get that debate going and renew confidence, trust, and so that people who come and work in the banks, when they go for their social evening, whatever it is, don't have to say, I'm in business, or I work in trade, or I'm in commerce, or I go to an office, but they can come in and say, I work in a bank, and I'm proud of it, and someone will buy you a lemonade or a beer free. There we are.
Okay, David. Well, that's a great aspiration. A great aspiration. Free beer for the bankers. Let's work on that.
Or lemonade.
Or lemonade. Paul, you are the managing director of Deutsche Bank, which has a long-standing presence here in Birmingham. Would you like to say something to us about your role as you see it here in the city and what your objectives are here?
Sure. I mean, I also look forward to the day when I can walk into a bar and proudly announce that I work for a bank and bought a drink. I think that's some way away. I should really start by explaining what Deutsche Bank is in Birmingham and what it isn't. We're not a branch. We're not in Birmingham providing financial services to the local business community. There was disappointment in the Chambers of Commerce when I told them that. I think they were hoping for cheap loans. We are here for skill, primarily. There are a number of universities within a very short distance of where we're sitting now, churning out very high calibre graduates who wish to stay in the region. There are a number of local businesses who provide us with the skills we need. There are 500 law firms in Birmingham, for example. And there are a number of people who we call returning Midlands, but people who have a natural roots in the region who want to come home. They want to come because their families are here, because of the quality of life that exists here. And so we're really here as a symptom of the success of Birmingham, as much as a cause. So it is because of those that went before us that we can come here and build on that platform by hiring those people and bringing work to the city. So our contribution to the city, on the face of it, therefore, would simply be paying salaries into the local economy. It's not, it's more than that. We have a duty as a major employer to put something back, be it through corporate social responsibility. We're very active in that space. And also, mainly, in my view, through education. We have a duty, not just in the schools, not just going into the schools to explain how to look after your money, what it means to open a bank account, not even with small businesses who are going at the scale towards hopefully one day being a major multinational, to teach them how to interact with an investment bank as they get bigger. But also at a slightly more fundamental level of how is the world changing and how do people navigate? So I think that's our duty. So we're here as a symptom of success, but I think hopefully we can be a cause of greater success in the future if we get that right.
Paul, thank you very much. That's a very ringing vote of confidence in Birmingham, I think, and quite rightly. Now, Simon, would you like to say a few words just to frame things
yes,
for
us?
us?
Yes, thanks very much. I'll come quite quickly to two key questions here, but I'll start with a story about one of our great friends at the business school and the university. Sir Dominic Cadbury was the Chancellor of the university and he was Deputy Chair of the Advisory Board for the business school. And we had a panel just like this in around January 2013, and Sir Dominic gave a very personal account of how he experienced a shift away from what he considered to be a stakeholder form of business, an organisation that was embedded in the community, nearly 200 years old, Cadbury Bourneville company, connected with its employees, had developed a set of embedded relationships in the region. And the takeover from Kraft, which happened 2 years prior to January 2013 when he gave this talk, initiated what he saw as a shift towards a profit-oriented variety of capitalism. Now, capitalism comes in different varieties. There are regional varieties, there are national varieties, but this variety of capitalism to him sort of took away what took a long time to develop, was a community-oriented business. And in a sense, one set of values were sort of replaced by another. And I've read quite a lot about corporate social responsibility. I've read quite a lot about stakeholder versus shareholder business models. Never have I seen it brought so personally to bear in terms of the experiences of a senior business leader, but also somebody who had a natural affiliation going back through the family for many, many years to a particular place. There are two things here. One is different forms of capitalism, but I think the other thing is to do with the regional nature of certain types of organisations and businesses. So it brought it home to me. Two questions that then I can go on to, which address the theme more directly. First question, what can a thriving banking sector do to help support and drive a dynamic regional economy? Three things. Move here. And what's fantastic is that HSBC and Deutsche Bank have done that. They've committed themselves and their resources and their people to backing growth in this region. People who've lived here a long time know it's a fantastic place. We've hoped more people will be attracted to come here, but that's a fantastic start. You bring high wage, high value added jobs to the region. The multiplier effect, the knock-on effect from this sort of investment is better than most other kinds of investments in the region. And Birmingham is a fantastic place to do it. Secondly, source locally. What I mean by that is many things, but if we want to maximise or optimise what I call the multiplier effect, the knock-on effect from great businesses like yours, try and avoid going back to suppliers, contractors, consultants and others in London, and try and look around and develop a cluster of firms in this region that will help us with that. And as any respectable dean needs to do, I'm going to be self-interested and say source from us as well. We have fantastic graduates. Take them on, keep them in the region. Because the more of our graduates who are high value, high wage employees that stay here, the better for the region. And source from us as a business school and as a university in terms of our research, because we do research that connects with the region. We've explored its challenges. Karen Rowlingson in the audience runs CHASM, which I think we've been introduced to, which is the Centre for Household Asset Savings and Management. They've for a long time looked at inclusive growth. We have the Centre for Ethnic Minority Business and Entrepreneurship that engage with local small businesses that are run by diverse minorities. So the research and the teaching that's done at the university is already engaging with the region, and we'd love to be a channel for you in this. Thirdly and lastly, and this, in terms of this question, I think reflects Clara's own narrative in a speech she gave in July 2015. She says the purpose of a good, well-conducted banking sector is succeed by serving the society in which it is or should be rooted. And in a sense, the third thing is embed yourself in this region, fundamentally. Not, I'd suggest, in terms of contracts, but in terms of relationships. Building relationships rather than a pure contracting model, I think, and others believe, is the better way of doing business. That doesn't mean you don't make profits, doesn't mean you do great performance, it just means that you're embedded in a region in a way that I think assists both sides of the coin. Finally, and I can talk about this, I think I've run out of time, but I can talk about this more. The question I've also been asked is, could business schools do more directly to assist in the drive for higher standards in banking over the longer term? Well, I think we can. I think we already do. Business schools, not just ours, most, are schizophrenic. We do a lot of stuff about profit and performance. We teach people how to do efficiency and productivity and high performance. We have a lot of faculty, however, and students who are taught not just to be efficient, but actually reflect, think about the ethics of responsible businesses, and think about whether the current business structures and models that we have that are in existence are the right ones, and how do we improve them in practical ways to take things forward. So, once again, I think business schools do this in their teaching, and again, it's not just ours, it's across the board. We do both of those things. We assist in the performance agenda, but we also, I think, reflect on whether the business models are optimised for the broader society, and we would welcome sets of partnerships where we can do that better as a business school, either through our education unit or through our research unit. So I'll stop there, but I think that sets the tone for some of our contribution.
Thank you very much indeed, Simon. And that is a very neat segue into James Cliff, who is the head of business banking at HSBC. James, I think you've just been given by Simon some very nice thoughts about how you might work with the business school.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's James. I work in a bank and I'm proud of it. And I'm moving to Birmingham, so I will be available if anybody wants to buy me a beer. And I say I move to Birmingham, I actually start running business banking for the UK out of Birmingham on Monday. And Simon talked about the need to embed ourselves into a region, into a community. That's exactly what we will be doing. So you will be seeing a lot more of HSBC. We will be much more visible in this region than we maybe have been in the recent past. But the role a bank can play in helping a regional economy is key. And there's been a variety of studies over the years, and if you amalgamate those studies, for me, they highlight the role of a bank in supporting a community. And the stat I love is if we walk out of here and we spend £1, and we spend that £1 with a local business, 76 pence of that £1 will get retained in the local area. If we go out and we spend £1 with a national or a multinational business, only about 46 pence of that £1 gets retained in the local area. And it's that extra 30 pence, that 30% of value, that rolls up and creates more jobs. And when a bank supports an SME, when a bank helps an SME to grow and create jobs, that's how you start to help an economy to grow and prosper. And that's, at the cornerstone of what we do as commercial bankers. But what's brought us to Birmingham has been a number of things. Firstly, the kind of the progressive and welcoming approach from the local authority. But also looking around and picking up on Paul's comment about talent. You look at the universities, you look at the talent pools that we've got to recruit from. And this region has an awful lot going for it. We also have heritage here as an organisation. HSBC was founded in Hong Kong 150 years ago, but we're also, a big part of the group dates back to the Birmingham and Midland Bank that was founded here in 1836. So culturally within our organisation, we have a pull to Birmingham and a fondness for Birmingham from a great number of our colleagues. So all those things added up led us to decide that we would build the new head office for the Ring Fence Bank here in Birmingham. And hopefully you've seen the site is now under construction, and that building will open at the end of 2018. But we're moving 1,000 roles from London to Birmingham. We estimate probably only about 20% of the colleagues currently in those roles will relocate. That gives us a challenge. It gives us a challenge that we've got to find talent to fill those vacancies. So colleagues who are in those roles at the moment will be moving to other roles within the organisation. But we're looking at our business and we're building the succession plan to end all succession plans, really. We're looking at the staff we have at the moment who live within a commutable distance of Birmingham. What roles could they do? Who could backfill their roles? But we're also looking externally. And we're not just limiting that to people in the Birmingham area. We're looking at people that maybe work in London at the moment, but who would want to relocate to Birmingham. And we're selling the messages that we were given, we understand about the opportunities in this area, the lifestyle choices people can make, and the opportunities for them and their families.
James, thank you very much. And that's I think the note you ended on of the attractions of this region is a very important one. Alison, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. As Colette mentioned at the beginning, we've been talking to a range of groups and audiences through the day, though we have saved the very best audience until last, of course, about Birmingham and its and some of those banks have national outlooks, some have global outlooks, but they all employ human beings. So they're all rooted in place and they all have a local aspect. Now, interestingly, very little of what we've talked about has actually related to regulation. Like mentioned at the beginning, regulation has its limits. It can't turn good role models, bad role models rather, into good role models. You can't mandate integrity or force someone to behave professionally. When we start talking about behaviour, when we start talking about competence, we're talking about culture. And culture is much harder to manage than it is to comply with regulation. It's to do with norms, it's to do with the processes fit what you're saying, with your values. It is to do with rewards and incentives. It's to do with where loyalties lie. Lots and lots of these intangible but very, very important things. And the difficulty for banks and for any organisation is you can't choose whether or not to have a culture. If you've got more than one room, you've probably got several cultures. But you can choose whether to manage it and what sort of culture to have. And this is what, as the Banking Standards Board, this is the area that we're focusing on. Now it's tough, and it's the responsibility of the firm, not the regulator. And it's not a challenge which is unique to banks. It's not a challenge that's unique to the 21st century. And it always comes back to this combination of behaviour and competence and overall professionalism. I mean, there's a great quote, which many of you will probably know, from Samuel Johnson, who I think summed it up. He said that if you have integrity without knowledge, it's weak and useless. And if you've got knowledge without integrity, it's dangerous and dreadful. And what banks and what the economy needs is both of those things. It needs the knowledge, it needs the integrity, it needs the competence, it needs the behaviour. If you get both of those, then you earn the trustworthiness. The across the sector, across any sector. If you get both of those in UK banking, you get a real competitive advantage for that sector. You get both of those in banks in Birmingham, and you've got a real competitive advantage in Birmingham. And what we've been talking about today is thinking about ways to get that in the sector in Birmingham. And it would be really interesting to hear the views from everyone here and thinking around the discussion here as to how we can help as the Banking Standards Board and across the finance here, how we get to that place.
Alison, thank you very much, and thanks to each of the panel for doing a bit of scene setting.